Hi, everyone. This is Ebony. Of course, now that I'm live, someone decided to start vacuuming at the hotel that I'm at. So hopefully that will not be too loud and disruptive. But if it is, we'll work through it. All right. So, again, hey, homies, I'm Ebony. We've got a new moon trudging in on January 18th, 2026, around 2:52 Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be using for the chart for Washington, D.C. today. That is the convention in mundane astrology to use the capital that represents the nation. Actually, let me pause because this sound is crazy. I'll come back. All right, I'm going to keep going. All right, let me start from the top actually. So we've got a new moon trudging in on January 18th, 2026, around 2:52 Eastern Standard Time. I will be using the chart for Washington, D.C., which is the convention in mundane astrology to use the capital as a representative for the nation. And then from there, I'll be giving the forecast for the month ahead for the USA, or what's left of it. This new moon sets the tone for the next lunar month. So we'll be talking about the next 4 weeks or so. And don't worry if you don't know what all of the astrology stuff means, because I will explain it as we go along. All right, so we'll start with the ascendant, and I'm going to put the chart up on the screen. Those people that has to talk as they're pulling things up. Okay, so we've got the chart on the screen of the new moon. Boom. So you can see that the ascendant of the chart is here at 29 degrees Gemini, and the ascendant for any chart tells us what's on the horizon and what's happening in the local environment. And having this chart's ascendant at 29 degrees Gemini is a big part of the story here. So the Sabian symbol, and when I mention Sabian symbols, those are just little story pictures for each degree of the zodiac, and they add extra meaning to the degrees. So this Sabian symbol for this degree of the zodiac is a parade of bathing beauties before large beach crowds. So what that means is y'all gonna be putting that ish on, okay? Putting on a bit of a show, posting on social media, stunting. This symbol is all about how society appreciates beauty and glamour and putting on the ritz. But there's also a shadow side to this, and that is being appreciated only for superficial attributes without recognition of the deeper layers. So be careful what you're revealing and who you're revealing it to, because not everyone is going to know your story or even care to know it. Everybody doesn't need to know your business as well. And Gemini is the mutable air sign. It's ruled by Mercury. So it's with Gemini on the horizon, it's a chatty month. It's a thinky month. Information is flowing in multiple directions, and it may be hard to discern the truth of what's being shared. Now, Gemini has that mental adaptability, right? They can pick up what you're putting down, but they may not hold on to it for very long. And we'll be seeing volatility, rapid change. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. So there's a question of being able to see through the facade, through the muzzle velocity, and being able to hold the valuable information and put the rest of it down. So that's the ascendant. And we've got Hygeia. There she is, pretty close to the ascendant. And it's heading up through the 12th house. The 12th house. I don't know why that Australian accent came from. The 12th house. Hygeia is an asteroid dealing with preventive medicine, holistic health, taking the steps you need to take before stuff goes down. So, wearing masks, washing hands, building up your immune system, eating clean, all the things we probably said we were going to start doing January 1st, and maybe you already forgot about them. Myself included, because my gym going friends were like, man, the new people didn't even pop up this year. I'm like, times are rough, y'all. And who wants to add more stuff to their plate? But health is wealth. And definitely keep that in mind because you'll see a trend over the course of the forecast today. So let's look at the new moon itself. It is over her at 28 degrees Capricorn in the 8th house. And I spoke about Capricorn moons quite a bit in the Capricorn Ingress video, but this is a very heavy, get it out the mud kind of energy. And nobody cares about Capricorns, or that's how they feel. Anyway, they're like, I got to do everything myself. Nobody cares about me. But at the same time, a lot of them have what I would call a provider kink. And it's like the meme of that kid who's like perched on the couch with some coffee or something. He's very pleased with himself. And I've seen a caption that says "Moms on Christmas" because it's like, just look at my babies up there playing with the gifts that I bought them. They take pride in being good caretakers. And people hate on Capricorns. They do. They're like, oh, they're so serious. They're so dry. They only care about money. But if you had to take care of yourself from the jump, as many Capricorns do, particularly Capricorn moons, wouldn't you be thinking about money and security and trying to get to safety and stability? Probably. So you can't fault them for that. It's a difficult mindset to get out of, the survival one. The Sabian symbol for 29 degrees Capricorn. So with Sabian symbols, you look at the next degree because it's the 29th degree that we're in, even though it's 28 degrees in some minutes. But the Sabian symbol is a woman reading tea leaves, which is like kind of what I'm doing right now, sort of. But it's being able to see things that other people miss, using intuition to receive gifts that come from divination. So you have to put aside skepticism and embrace trust. There are messages around if you are open to seeing the signs. And given the connection to tea leaves, it's also about, maybe being hopped up on coffee and tea, the caffeination. And that could be part of the Gemini story right there. Like, why are you so buzzed? Advisors. Well, looks like I'm slowing down. Gotta love the crappy internet connection at the hotel. But yeah, so the 8th house, again, the IRS, national debt, danger through war or natural disasters, the president's advisors, financial relationships with foreign countries, the death rate, public mortality. And the 8th house is also known as an anaretic house. This means it's a house of crisis, culmination, urgency, transformation. So it's a little bit stressful, just a tad bit. And we've got a few planets here, right? You can see it here. We've got Mars, Mercury. We'll talk about Astraea in a minute. Of course, the moon and the sun from the new moon, Venus, Pluto, Vesta. I mean, it's a party in the 8th house right now. And Raphael notes that Mars in the 8th house shows many sudden and terrible deaths by fire, accidents, and crime. I can't lie to you, that sounds a little dicey to me. And Mars rules the 6th and 11th houses in this chart because Mars rules Scorpio and Aries. And the 6th house covers the nation's food reserves, the working classes, public employees and services. It's also trade unions, social security, public health vulnerabilities to epidemics and widespread diseases. And if you cut thousands of people from working at the Center for Disease Control, what could go wrong? And I would wager that diseases won't be controlled. So love that for us. And that's why I mentioned Hygeia a little bit earlier. We'll come back to it once again. We also have the 11th house represented again by Mars. And the 11th house represents our legislators and the hopes of the nation. And Barbara Waters said that when it's afflicted in a mundane chart, it indicates that the people are disillusioned. And I would wager that the people are disillusioned because the ruler of the 11th house is afflicted. Mars is in the 8th house. That's an afflicted house, right? If you're in the anaretic houses, you know, even when crises work out for the good, crises doesn't really feel good in the moment. So I would argue that that's an afflicted house, and amongst all the other astrologers historically who would argue that. So expect that disillusionment to continue. We also have Mercury in the 8th house, and Mercury rules the 1st and 4th houses because the 1st house here is Gemini, as we discussed, and the 4th house is here in Virgo, and Mercury rules both of those. So the 1st house and the 4th house, they're going to cover the country as a whole. That's the 1st house. But the 4th house is leading more into farmers, the property market, wealth that comes from beneath the earth, so like oil and gas. And all of these things are in the house of crisis and debt. So yeah, it's a debty story. It's a crisis-y story. And the moon in this chart rules the money because the moon rules Cancer, which is ruling the 2nd house here. And that's in the 8th house too. So we're spending money on crises. Most of the country, like all of the stuff in the chart is here in the 8th house in crisis. And it's kind of notable, especially with the 8th house story, because I was just talking to an astrology friend, Janelle Belgrave, shout out to her. And she was talking about the national debt. And she was like, oh my God, it's so high. Like, what is to be done? And here we are. It's already really high. It's crazy. And we're heaping more stuff onto the pile. But at the same time, in the Say Something Nice challenge, we do have Valentine's Day this month. The new moon is on the Mercury Venus midpoint. And that is a midpoint means you're exactly halfway between two planets. So you blend those energies together. So Mercury and Venus together, it's very cute, y'all. It's cute. It's like love notes, poetry, whispering sweet nothings, you know, a cute little text here and there, nice Valentine's Day cards. And for the hopeful romantics, it is very cute. That's something to look forward to in this chart. So I'm going to let y'all have about 5 seconds of that, and then I'm going to talk about some other stuff. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, level up, level up. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that 5 seconds of bliss with your Mercury Venus moment. And now we're going to talk about Astraea. Astraea is an asteroid who represents a desire for justice, but also an inability to let go. And I can't help but think about the fact that it's Valentine's Day. Ooh, let me highlight Astraea for y'all. There she is. Hey, girl. It's Valentine's Day, and I can't help but think about how many people overstay in relationships because they've been future faked, or because they feel like they need to get their little lick back, or because they need closure. So I'm going to say this. I feel like Astraea is telling us to take our energy back. Do not stay in some crappy situation so you can get a Build-A-Bear on the 14th. Don't have DJ Khaled's "Congratulations, you played yourself" echoing in your head a month, less than a month from now. I don't want to see you kicking rocks or punching the air. Just do yourself a favor. Let it go now. Not everything needs to be seen through to the end. You don't need to exhaust all your time, energy, resources to see if the juice is really worth the squeeze. And funny enough, I pulled the 6 of Cups reversed this morning from my tarot deck. And the 6 of Cups reversed, this talks about living in the past and needing to let go of the things that you're holding on to purely out of nostalgia. They no longer serve a purpose and will weigh you down. And I think about this from a relationship standpoint. There are literally billions of people in the world. In the US, it's got about 350 million, but you're letting this one person who mistreated you spin the block. Crazy. And if you don't know what future faking is, check out Dr. Romani's video on that. I'll link it in the description box. I think it might already be there. And one last thing about letting go, if you are steadfastly gripping something that isn't meant for you, how are you going to make room to receive the new beginning that is promised by the new moon? All right, enough about her. So the next combination sometimes worries me when I see it. Mars-Pluto, boop, boop. It's kind of on the midpoint of the new moon is on the midpoint for that as well. This is a combination for violence and brutality, but it's also about working super hard, overcoming difficulties. And this sounds like a really intense time, just based on some of the things that I mentioned. But I'm actually giving a whole talk on Mars and Pluto at UAC this September. So check that out if you can make it to Chicago. And we've also got Chiron squaring the moon. So here's Chiron squaring the new moon. And with that, you're creating friction, you're bringing pain, you're bringing isolation and sickness. So, that's a little dicey too. I don't know that there's not much that's not dicey. I think I've said that wrong, but it's fine. Another thing, the new moon is also forming a quincunx to the ascendant. So the ascendant's at 29 degrees Gemini. The new moon is over here at 28 Capricorn. So that's a quincunx. And anyone who has followed me for a while knows that I love a quincunx because they're messy. They bring the drama. And a quincunx is a 150-degree aspect. So it's essentially an angle between two planets that's 150 degrees. And it's one that forces action in a sense. You know that phrase, the elephant in the room? Now, imagine that the elephant just starts wowing and starts marching around, beating a drum like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. That is kind of how quincunx can transpire, especially in a medical chart. But it's that thing that you have ignored, that thing that you've cast aside, that proverbial can that you've kicked down the road is back with a vengeance. So given the nature of the quincunx with the new moon story, our environment is being disrupted. And it sounds like things are hitting the fan. Our environment is being disrupted by crises of violence and health. So one of the last things that I'll say, we have Saturn and Neptune in the 10th house. And this is the house of the people who are in authority, president. It's national reputation, prestige, credit, power, the national trade and influence. So it's one of the most important houses in mundane astrology. And we have Saturn and Neptune there. And the two paired together often represent systems crumbling, disappointment, misery, poverty. And Neptune is there at the anaretic degree. I didn't even talk about that with Gemini, which is actually important. The anaretic degree is 29 degrees of any sign. So this is a point of crisis and urgency. So having Neptune there is crazy. Having Gemini there is a little crazy. So this like more crisis energy. And I feel like we had a similar chart earlier or last year that had that kind of anaretic story. But this month, countries are maybe starting to tell the U.S., hey, you got to pay them loans back. Time to hit us back. Where the money? Maybe. The country's already in free fall, and this month further erodes what credibility remains in terms of credit, in terms of reputation. So the national influence crumbling. And I do find it interesting that Jupiter rules the 10th house. And the 10th house is, of course, the government, the presidency. And it's retrograde in the derived fifth house, which is basically saying when you count from the 10th house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's in the fifth house. And that's by the 5-degree rule. We will move that Jupiter in there. So that is the house of children. So the president is retrograde in the house of children. Epstein files. Epstein files. Now, I took a quick glance at the Aries point earlier. I'm not going to put y'all through all of that. But the Aries point is 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, where personal stuff becomes public and collective issues surface. We have Neptune Chiron there. This can represent this can represent a proliferation of illness that's hard to get rid of, and maybe even more layoffs with Pallas Neptune. That's very likely. And Neptune Chiron can also just mean more problems with water or on water, misleading communications, trouble with treatment, medical folks being under duress. And another time that this happened, there was like a big healthcare workers strike in India. The doctors were striking because they weren't being treated well. There were lots of boating accidents. Addiction treatment comes up as a thing. And what was the girl who said she went missing, but she wasn't actually missing? I can't remember her name. But there was like a wig on the side of the road. Oh my God, they made a whole Tubi movie about it. Y'all put it in the comments, or I'll put it in there when I could see what it is. But her story came up. It's like this big deception sort of thing. Uranus Cupido is another story that's on the Aries point right now, or will be for the new moon, which is basically right now because the new moon starts tomorrow based on when I'm recording this. And Uranus Cupido is sudden things happening in families. It can be sudden marriages. So even though I told y'all about this Astraea situation, we talked about letting go, but some of y'all still gonna be running down to City Hall or Vegas for the nuptials. You're grown, so do what you need to do. Keep it pushing. All right, and on the new moon itself, from a Uranian astrology perspective, we have Saturn Apollon, and that can refer to education, but can also represent a growing hindrance, or that many separate or depart. And when we talk about separation in astrology, that can mean leaving a person, a place, or even leaving the earth through death. So a lot of people leaving somewhere, or a lot of people dying. This feels like the start of something that's slow and kind of crumbling. And, I'm not even really going to get too much into the Uranus trine that was there, because you think of Uranus trines as a supportive, flowing aspect to the 8th house stuff. But really, it's just facilitating how crazy everything is. So this new moon chart is a lot, as many of our charts have been over the past few years, several years, post-pandemic. And I don't remember the forecast the last time. It's not felt like a lot. But here we are, where I feel like people are getting desensitized to the chaos. And that kind of speaks to that hope of the nation being afflicted. It's like, why hope? Why dream? Because people are just going to do what they want to do anyway. And we still hope and we still dream, because this moment will not last forever. And I feel like I say this a lot, but maybe I should say it even more. But I take solace in the fact that astrologers, we just pay attention to the cycles of the world. What comes up must come down. And let's bring it back to where we started with the Capricorn energy. The tarot card associated with Capricorn is the Devil card. And when you actually look at the card, it's like, oh, the devil, ooh, yikes. But when you actually look at the card, the devil doesn't actually look scary. He kind of looks silly and funny looking, right? But the people who are chained up in the card, they feel stuck. They're like, oh my God, this devil, he's got us here. We can't leave. But that's an illusion. And the Hebrew letter connected to the devil card means I. And it's about seeing through the illusion that we are stuck. We are not stuck. The earth that we live on is not the end all be all. So don't get caught up in the material woes. All right. This isn't to be dismissive of financial instability or homelessness or hunger, or any of those things. And there is somebody bigger than all of that. Things can change in the blink of an eye, for better or for worse. Just as people can lose all their wealth in a day, people can gain wealth in a day. So don't get caught up in the muck and the mire of this world's trouble. So I say Step back, see the big picture, and don't let the proverbial devil get you down. Now, if that forecast resonated with you, hit that like button. It really does help more people find this kind of real talk astrology. And this was a collective forecast, as I shared. We're looking at what's hitting the nation as a whole, but your personal chart, that's where the real magic happens. That's where we can see exactly how this energy is showing up in your life, with your money, your relationships, your health, your career moves. And if you want to understand what's coming for you specifically during this wild time, not just what's happening in the world, I do personal chart consultations as well. The link is in the description box. We'll sit down, look at your chart, and I'll tell you what you need to know and when you need to know it, the real deal. And feel free to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I break down these transits regularly and you need to stay informed. I'm trying to do this new moon thing every month. And it's hard to navigate sometimes when you can't see what's coming. So stay tuned. Drop a comment. Are you already feeling this energy? If so, let me know. If you're not, let me know what's going on. Either way, stay aware, stay blessed, and I will see you next time. Peace, homies.